First and foremost, I always say, people know me as Steve Kuclo, the bodybuilder, but in reality, I'm Steve Kuclo, the person. And I think when people get to know me, they're like, wow, this guy's, pretty cool. He's pretty versed in a lot of different topics, from health to guns, to cars, to politics. Like I love to discuss it all, talk it all. And ultimately, I just truly love helping people. I think that's always been my passion from when I was a paramedic, firefighter for the city of Dallas from the age 20 to about 30. About 10 years I spent in that service, and it's obviously like it's a very thankless job sometimes, and it definitely taught me a lot about myself. And at the same time, I was, competing in bodybuilding, coming up the ranks. I was 18, doing team nationals, won, and turned pro at 25. And really through that experience, like, and a lot of young guys always come to me and asking, like, man, I'm ready to go all in on bodybuilding. I'm like, yes, but you need to have a secondary plan to go with it. Like there's something that supplements your competing because we know, especially as an amateur, it's a little different nowadays if you're able to monetize and utilize social media and stuff like that. But you need to create a revenue for yourself in some way, money, and that's through your job, your day job, and then eventually work your way into full-time bodybuilding. So for me, it was I was able to do both. I learned a lot about stress, learned how to manage stress, learn to myself that I'm able to like, do some big things under stress. And then when I turned pro at 25 and then, eventually went all in on bodybuilding at an age of 31, I spent a good 5 years like, fully focused on bodybuilding and it's been great. Like I love the sport. I love, the industry itself. Everything I've done evolves around fitness, it evolves around bodybuilding. And it's been amazing. I've been able to meet amazing people. I mean, from all industries, from music industry to politics. I've been to the White House. I've been to backstage at numerous concerts of some of my favorite artists. And all that's because of obviously my success in bodybuilding. But it's done really well. It's done really well for me. So I mean, I owe a lot to the sport and who I am as a person. I mean, obviously my accolades, a lot of people know me by, but I just love meeting people. I love, I'm a people person, and when I get to meet fans and stuff, it's an honor because somebody that asked me for my autograph, I'm like, I'm humbled by it, even till today. I mean, I've been asked a million times, but to this day, somebody wants a picture, an autograph. I mean, that's an honor on my end. So
Does it seem like you can see the other side of that transaction, that emotional, spiritual, human connection transaction from like remembering when you saw somebody in that light? Do you ever feel yourself even slipping in and out of those like thoughts at all? Are you a personal trainer, online fitness coach, or gym owner on the verge of burnout? Are you wanting to grow your fitness business but can't add more hours to your hectic schedule? Introducing Trainer Revenue Multiplier, the premier wealth creation system for fitness professionals that helps you earn more and work less. Visit www.trainerrevenuemultiplier.com today to schedule your free business accelerator session. If you're serious about taking your business to the next level, schedule your call today.
yeah. I mean, and a lot of it is kind of like the imposter syndrome that kind of comes on. You hear, people talk about that, but like it's kind of like when you're in business for yourself and you want to charge a certain amount or, say, hey, my coaching costs $1,000 a month. Well, when you first start that off, like, am I really worth, you start questioning your own worth sometimes. And that's like the imposter syndrome, more or less. So sometimes, when initially, like, I mean, like, why does that person want my autograph? Why do not want to take a picture of me? Like, but now I get it. And, I was at that point. I remember myself as a young bodybuilder as coming up as a teenager, going to the Arnold Classics at 16, 17 and meeting guys that I follow, saw in magazines and, asking for a picture autograph. I mean, uh, today everybody just got cell phones. They're like, hey, can I get a picture with you? But I mean, when I turned pro and it was kind of the evolution of the iPhone, maybe iPhone like 4 was out, maybe, but not as many pictures as it was autographs. Everybody was like, hey, you had 8x10s, we're signing pictures. I mean, it was the evolution of humanity, especially the sport. But it's a really cool experience when somebody comes up to you, asks you for an autograph and or a picture. You know, I don't care what I'm doing, how tired I am. I will usually say yes. I mean, there's been times where I'm, getting ready to go. I mean, in a gym and there's somebody visiting and, my home gym or something, and get ready to squat 500 pounds, and that mental state you got to get in to do that. But somebody's like, "Hey man, I'm a big fan. I'm just visiting. Can I get a picture?" And you're like, all right, I'll do that for you. I'm that kind of guy. I'm not like, get out of here, kid. I'm the kind of guy that will stop even at the Olympia, dead tired, line of people, and it's time, the place is shutting down, but people still in line to get your autograph or picture. And I'm like, man, I'm here because of them. So, I've always, had a lot of, I hate to say the word pride, but like, I was proud of what I was able to do to, in essence, bring people to me to say, hey, that means I'm doing something right in life.
It's interesting you mentioned the word pride, and there's so many, one side of the fence is like being proud of your accomplishments, right? And like, I'm proud of what I've done, the hard work and all of that. And then there's the gets into the other side of like, I'm so proud that it's getting in the way. Like it's getting in the way of relationships, or it's getting in the way of, whether it be business or whatever, or personal. It's getting in the way of me seeing clearly. Do you see that in bodybuilding, pride is sometimes, kind of jumped, the line of that by different competitors, maybe at different times is jumped, okay, at certain points, you see that this is a good guy, maybe like more acting as a good guy. I think at the core, most people are good, but this guy's maybe acting more along the lines of what he really is. And sometimes maybe it's just some stuff is getting to him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a difference between like, arrogance or being a dick, kind of pride versus like, hey, this is, like a confidence in oneself. Like, that's kind of the delineation between the two, in my opinion. Um, and there's plenty of dickhead bodybuilders. I'm just going to be honest. Like, there's some guys you meet. I mean, and it goes really in any industry. There's times you go up to an athlete and, may not just be the wrong time. And they're like, no, get out of here, and that one time like scarred you as a fan forever. They're like, man, that guy was a dick. Like, I never want to, like, I'm going to rip up his picture when I get home. I'm going to unfollow him, whatever it is. Like, there's that component. So I've always like was very conscious of that. One of the things that was said to me at a very young age in the sport coming up was, the same people you see coming up are the same people you see coming down. Meaning, when the friends like that old expression, like, hey man, don't forget about me when you get famous. The I always had in the back of my mind, like, whether I climb the ranks to become Mr. Olympia or, super famous on the cover of a magazine, it doesn't change who I am. It doesn't change where I come from. It doesn't change my origins and who I am as a person deep down inside. So I've always, held that kind of close to me and never let like my accomplishments get to my head or create like so much of an ego that it's like, nobody can even come up and talk to me or without like kissing my hand kind of thing. Like they're I always just want to be real. And, I feel like the person that I portray online, the person that you see in videos, it's the same person you would meet or even that, watching this interview or listening to it. You meet me in a gym, in the street, wherever, like I'll sit and have a conversation with you, man. Like I'm real like that. And some people, it's a shame, but there's a lot of influencers and people with status or whatever you want to say that when you meet them in person, they are totally different. And I never wanted to be that.
Did you ever fear that, going and climbing the ranks of bodybuilding and potentially meeting some of the people you looked up to and being like, oh man, I hope this person is kind of like the person that he says he is, to, for that interaction for your own kind of fandom, if you will?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's been so I could say for the majority and the it's been a very good experience. There's not too many that I say like, man, and I'm the kind of person that gives a little grace to like, hey, I understand, like you're tired, you don't want to say, don't want to talk, whatever, but at the same time, like I know as an athlete now how that could be at times, but I always, I can't say that there was too many. I mean, for the most part, and I think in a lot of sports especially in nowadays, they try to create so much drama. And in bodybuilding is such a one man sport. Like it's guys competing against guys. It's not like a team against team or whatever. So there's a lot of respect in the industry for the most part. At least when I was backstage competing, I mean, all the guys were very, very cool. I really can't think of too many guys that I'd be like, man, that guy was a dick. That guy, was always trying to start crap. Everybody was super cool. There's guys that were funny, guys that were quiet. Like, you'd be backstage with Cedric, and Cedric would be wanting to crack jokes, and we'd be laughing. And I got a lot of stories being overseas when we were kind of doing our European tour. And I mean, we literally did like 3 shows in 3 days, and we would compete. We'd have to like fly that night out, get in early morning. Some guys were, wanting to stay up, eat, drink, and, be hungover, getting on stage the next day. I mean, this stuff that's not, like, probably read a book about it, but like, there's really some cool stories that, and I think when you're on the road, it's a little bit, I've always felt more relaxed on the road. When you're home, I'm always thinking about all the things I got to do, more responsibility. When you're on the road, you're like, man, I'm gonna let loose. It's fun. It's gonna, we're gonna enjoy, gonna go out and, experience stuff and have fun. And especially when you're a group of guys you're competing with that have been dieting, 6 months out of the year, and we're all kind of at the end of it's usually post Olympia, and everybody's kind of ready to just have, like, be done with prepping and wanting to get into some fun times, so that, maybe start a little early. But for the most part, man, like, we have some really good memories, some really, really good memories. That's for sure.
So you talk about being this guy that likes to talk about such a wide range of different topics. And
Yeah, I like to not be a one-trick pony, I guess you
yeah,
could say. Like, I like to be versed in different topics, dynamic in ways, like, could adapt to a lot of different conversations or rooms. Not that that came natural to me. It was something that I worked toward, and something that I wanted to improve. One of my mentors, best friends, kind of in my 20s and 30s, I saw I always surrounded myself with really high level people that are more successful than me, usually financially, or have great relationships and marriages and families. And I look at that and I'm like, man, I want to model. Like, I look at the people I surround myself with, people that I'd want to model my life after, things that, whether it's the way they do business, or the way they uh do their marriage, the way they are as a parent, like. And and I'm very observant, and I'm not I'd rather listen more than speak in a lot of times, and that has taught me a lot of lessons. And obviously, like, I've learned a lot being in different rooms, and I put myself in those, a lot of business rooms, a lot of mastermind rooms, a lot of which y- and it's funny because the crossover and how much fitness has grown, and like, people that know that, oh, that's Steve or whatever, like, the fame kind of carried in that industry. But at the same time, it was even people that didn't know you kind of gave you respect based on your accolades, or just looking at my physique and being like, I understand the work it takes to look like that, and there's respect there. So
is that something that maybe you think pushed you into bodybuilding at all? Was like, my mind, I know I can be this guy who talks about this, that, and has a little bit of knowledge about everything, and can have conversations, and kind of can see the world with multiple perspectives. But from a physical realm, I also want to be that guy who kind of goes out on a limb and like tries different things. Your sports background, your bodybuilding background, just general health and fitness, and then helping others do that. Did you feel like that was almost like your physical Renaissance man coming out?
I would say it is. Yeah, it definitely was. I have amazing parents in the way, like, they supported me, and they did everything they could within their realm to give me everything I could to, like, set me up in life, and not in the aspect of, like, I don't come from a rich family. I have a very blue collar family. But they showed me a lot of love and support. And I think when you have that as a person, like, that gives you a lot of confidence to pursue things. And the one thing it also did was, I realized what I kind of wanted in life, and I wanted more than my parents had, because, like I said, they're very blue collar. Like, my dad's very content with, having a very, I mean, he's a chef, and it's like, I look at this, kind of way off topic. Like, chefs now are looked at like rock stars, but when he was a chef, they're just like, he's a cook, like, big deal. Now chefs are like, man, there's a famous chef. They got freaking TV programs named after all these chefs. Like, so he could have been one of those guys, and he still cooks to this day. But I knew that I wanted to, have more success, wanted to, um, make it in life, and kind of have more. than they had. And that was kind of been a driving force. Like I want to be the first in my family, kind of break that chain. And I don't want to call it poverty, but I just kind of mediocrity or kind of just being okay with life or just good. I want it great. And for me to strive for that, like there's a great example. Like, sometimes people could be great teachers of things you don't want. And, when people talk about, oh, my parents were bad and terrible parents and all that stuff, like that was actually a good thing, maybe, because you learned what you don't want to be. Like
Mm.
you have the chance to not be that by going completely opposite of how they were. So for me, it was like I wanted more. I wanted to be more successful in all those realms. So they were great teachers in that component, and the support behind it. It just was a great. I look at it now like they were great parents because of that.
Are you a personal trainer who wants to scale and grow your business online? Have you been coaching online for years, yet don't know how to incorporate online into your current business model? Introducing Trainer Revenue Multiplier, the premier wealth creation system for fitness professionals that helps you earn more and work less. Visit www.trainerrevenuemultiplier.com today to schedule your free business accelerator session. If you're serious about taking your business to the next level, schedule your call today. Did you get into bodybuilding thinking like, oh, this is my chance, or this could be a thing that propels me into that?
I was always in athletics. My dad was the very hopeful father, like, hey, my son's gonna be a pro athlete. I'm gonna, like kind of live my life vicariously through him. And I probably could have played pro hockey. I was very, very good at hockey. A couple of the guys I did play with went to the NHL. Um, so I felt like, sports was, athletics. I have a very self-motivating person who I am, and I'm very driven. So I love sports. I love the competition. But then, the bodybuilding bug bit me because it was I always wanted to be the biggest, fastest, strongest guy on the field. That was like my field, the ice, whatever it was. I just wanted to be the guy that, damn, that dude looks like a specimen out there, like. And so I've always like loved the training component, and I put on muscle easy. I was strong, like that was just, I just loved it. So I just more or less kept pursuing that more and more. Would go to some bodybuilding shows, kind of got that bug, like maybe I should do this one day. And people were like, you look incredible. This is at 18. And I always thought you had to be like Ronnie Coleman or Jay Cutler to get on stage. And, at 18, I was like, there's no way I could compete. And then eventually I said, I met my first training partner, which was my first coach, Justin Harris, known as Troponin online, very brilliant human being. Did a lot of amazing things together over a short period of time in my teenage years. Like a hobby turned into a career. And when they say when you do something you love, you don't work a day in your life. Like, and not that, I mean, bodybuilding is a 24/7, 365-day job, but at the same time, it's very rewarding because I get to do what I love. Like, and where sometimes people go to the gym to blow off steam as a pro bodybuilder, like I'm going to the gym with high intention to improve my body. I got, whether it's the Arnold Classic or the Mr. Olympia or one of the big shows like on my mind, like, you got to be very focused and very intentional with your time in there. So
I had Justin Harris on the podcast actually very early on, and extremely intelligent. I mean, it's just
yeah.
way over my head most of the stuff that he talks about, but it was fascinating and just really really good to learn from. But you know, on that same level though, like getting into the sport at that early age, and even though you're training with sports and stuff, the training for bodybuilding and the intensity um in the details for bodybuilding to me is on a whole different level from a lot of other sports. Even was that something to you that you looked at it as like a positive, as like a I can control everything, or was that something going into it was like, oh man, I didn't realize all this was going to be involved in this?
A little bit of both. A little bit of, I know what it takes to win and the discipline and that has to come with it. And a lot of sacrifice. Like if you never competed, you never dieted for extended amount of time. Like there's a lot of sacrifice, a lot of birthdays missed, a lot of holidays. You can't really partake, a lot of celebrations. Um, so you have to be okay with that. But I think the thing about bodybuilding is you are always judged. And if you're not a person that likes to be judged, then it's not sport for you because, and especially the more you work your way up the ranks, especially the more you put yourself out there on social media, I mean, people are going to be critics. People are going to, I mean, how somebody could say, like, talk shit on Ronnie Coleman or Phil Heath, just say, like, the two of the most freaky, insane bodies look like pieces of art in the world ever. And people are going to hate on them. I mean, they're going to hate on LeBron James, one of the best basketball players ever. They're going to hate on Michael Jordan. They're going to hate on Tom Brady. I mean, that's the nature of humans, I guess, is to hate on the winners and hope the losers get their chance. So that's kind of a shitty part sometimes of the sport, is the amount of criticism that comes with it. And every decision you do, like you said, it can dictate the way you look. It's the way you look. It's a very vain kind of sport. Like, you're so obsessed the way you look, but at the same time, like, that is part of the sport. So you have to be okay with being that, like, there's that fine line of being confident, cocky, vain versus like, hey, I'm doing this for a reason and purpose. So yeah.
Yeah. I think people do look at it as vain because it's physical, but it's weird that they don't look at someone very highly successful in the business world that has probably like a very regimented mental program that they go through, but they don't see that as vain when in reality it's the same exact thing, right? It's just the steps that are getting you towards the goal. So I think and I think that it's because it's physical and you can see it, and it's a lot easier to hate on that, and it's a lot easier to, um, I think potentially it's a lot easier to make people feel bad about physical things for some reason. Maybe that's just me generalizing, but it seems like people react more to like, you look this way, or your hair looks stupid, or like just random things, like more about the way you look than it is the way that you are. A lot of times, like, people will get less offended a lot of times if you say like you're an idiot versus you're fat. Like, it's just weird, but it's just the way it is. But do you feel like because of that judgment, that judgment is increasing as you're gaining popularity from, like you said, obviously judges of the shows, but also from social media and from, magazines and now podcasts and all these different things? Do you feel like you have to manage your level of judgment on yourself to a certain degree, or does that stay pretty constant?
That stays pretty constant. I mean, I'm a hard judge of myself. Like, I do want to push myself to, high levels to like, it's my wife is like, one of our core values is excellence in our house. And like, it's like, if you're going to do something, do it right. If you're going to do it, it's worth overdoing in ways. But it's also like, giving yourself a little bit of grace sometimes, not being overcritical about things. Like, yes, we're human. We slip up. You miss a workout here and there. Stuff happens. Like, so you got to give yourself a little bit of grace. Like, everything can't be perfect. And you find a lot of competitors are very type A, very obsessive compulsive with things. If they and I was very at a young age too, like, not so much that it was ruining my life, but I was so strict. Like, I remember one of the first interviews I did for a one of my first bodybuilding shows. They asked, did you have a cheat meal at all? Did you cheat at all during prep? And I was like, well, I didn't think about that. I was like, yeah, I had 11 almonds when I said 10 on my diet, and I was serious. I wasn't trying to be funny, but at that time, when you say that, like, that's how serious I take it, how strict I was. I mean, now, I mean, you eventually learn to create some balance in life, and competition is one thing, but being fit, living the lifestyle, you have to have some flexibility, some balance in it, and in order to do this for a long time.
Yeah.
But again, giving yourself some grace, giving yourself some not go so over the top with things.
There's something, I think, maybe even more so nowadays, that is attractive about it, because it gives you almost this sense of like, this is what I stand for, maybe too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the highly judged, somebody look at me initially walking in a room without knowing me, whatever it is, it's immediate, like, oh, meathead, all that dude does is work out, take steroids. Like, that's the immediate judgment, no matter what. Unless somebody understands the gym culture, or have ever competed, or understands bodybuilding at all, that's different. But somebody that doesn't, I mean, the immediate judgment of like, meathead, probably dumb, All they want to do is work out, lift weights, and that's it, So, and I was talking about this the other day with a friend of mine. Some of that derives from some of the marketing back in the day, like the animal pack marketing from, it was the Ultimate Meathead brand, which was like the guy sitting in his, basement of his parents' house eating egg whites at like midnight, being like, this is life, and if anybody's ever seen those ads, like, or you're just going to assume every bodybuilder's like that, then, if they just want to sit in a basement and eat egg whites at midnight in their parents' house and never have a life. But um I think what was the coolest part to that is when somebody gets to meet me or gets to know me as a person, and social media offers that opportunity to be able to dig a little bit or see more into that person's life, maybe without knowing them or ever meeting them. You kind of say, and that's why I think people get followings, because people admire or like the way that person either thinks, acts, does, whatever they have. Like, so that's the attraction there. But I think for me, again, kind of going back to the real component, like I'm a real person. I like having real conversations. And I'm somebody that truly cares about people. And when people finally get to get past that judgment of just visual and kind of get into the internal a little bit and see who I am, or get to know me or speak with me, they get to realize, hey, that guy's a little more dynamic than the, you know, cardboard cutout it looks to be.
Do you find that, like, compared to 10 years ago, 15 years ago in the industry when social media wasn't as big, or even before social media, that it was almost something that you could, in a sense, if you wanted to, hide behind? Like, if you didn't want to be that person, that does share a lot, you didn't have to be. But nowadays it's almost like seen as, get on social media, tell your story, get on, your Instagram stories every day and share what you're doing. And there's almost more of a pressure to be or share that version of you that maybe you didn't have to or even want to back in the day.
Very true. And I struggle with that. I really do. Like, I like having privacy. I like kind of living my life. If you're always in the spotlight, and I can get why a lot of the celebrities kind of go crazy if they always got a camera in their face, like Hollywood celebrities, movie stars, and all that. Like, that gets old. I mean, as much vanity is kind of cool for a little bit, but eventually, like, man, I just want to like sit in my backyard and by myself and not have cameras over the fence, kind of thing. Maybe we might film a set. Maybe we might, have muscular development there, filming the workout, but it was not revolved around filming everything. And I mean, we get in, you work hard, and that's it. And so I have to remind myself to definitely post more, be more engaged with social media. But at the same time, I know that drives people. People love they're consumers of information, they're consumers of people's lives, and they want to hear, and we live in we're in a consumer society. Like, people just want to consume everything, and you have to give them a product. And is social media, as an influencer, as a pro athlete, as a pro bodybuilder, whatever it is, you're a brand, you're the product they want to consume, and you have to put it out there. I do understand that for sure.
Is it hard to, not to get too political, but is it hard to stay, but you also want to like be you if you do want to be you? Is that ever challenging, being in the spotlight more and like having people ask you questions and being like, well, here's my thoughts, but maybe I might have to, censor myself, even if, we live in a society that doesn't necessarily always censor us. Sometimes we feel like we have to start to become censors of ourselves.
Yeah, because certain topics are very polarizing. Yes. Especially politics, especially, I think that's the most divisive thing that you can discuss on the internet. I could say, for the most part, most of the fitness industry has a very, I'm going to say, definitely leans more conservative, and I'll kind of leave it at that. I think because people appreciate hard work, they work hard for what they get. They're not giving it. You're not given a six pack like you bust your ass for it. So people kind of have those morals when it comes to politics, or those like those beliefs, more or less.
Mhm.
There's times where, yeah, you do want to get on, just rant, say stuff, and but at the same time, like, but at the same time, like, I hate to use the word drama, but anything that kind of brings some drama or brings some adversity.
This podcast is sponsored by Smoking Gun Coffee, a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to give back to those in need. Don't forget to use code TWR10 for a 10% discount at checkout.
I'm sure you see that in your podcast. You have somebody that's a little bit edgy, a little bit kind of that's gonna maybe stir things up a little bit. It probably gets more engagement than somebody could have a great message at the same time. So I do like to, I'm never gonna hold back who I am or change who I am or what I believe in. But at the same time, and I'll have an educated or civil adult conversation with somebody from complete other side, complete other view. And that's the problem too, is people won't have a constructive conversation where it's like, hey, let's be mature about this. I want to hear your viewpoint. I can give you mine. We can come to an understanding of why you may think this way, why I think this way, and whether we come to an agreement or not. Like, we can shake hands and say, man, that was a great conversation. And versus the attack, which everybody goes straight to attack, like the emotional drive behind a conversation sometimes where it's very, like, just because you voted this way or want to vote that way, you're a bad person. Like, really? Like, how about we just have a conversation about this? Why do you want to do that? And I'll tell you why I want to do this. So
Do you see this as a trend? Do you see this as a real growth rate opportunity, or what is bodybuilding in right now?
I think bodybuilding goes in eras for sure. Like, you look at the 90s era, the early 2000s, kind of my era from like 2010 to 2020, I'm just going to say. Now I think we're in the next decade, next generation of bodybuilders, and it does evolve. Social media definitely has allowed it to kind of expand in front of more people. In fitness, I think in general is one of the biggest things searched and viewed on social media. I think people like to look at sexy people. That's just fact. Like, you got a woman in a bikini that's fit. There are people, guys want to stare at that. Guys even want to stare at guys with six packs and look, like, especially somebody that admires the physique based sport, that I could see a guy, whether I compete with or that's coming up in the ranks, and I could, I look at it and I'm like, man, that guy's got a great physique, and my hat's off to him. And I'm usually very encouraging to a lot of the up and coming athletes, guys that are competing, or um, because I know the hard work that goes into it. I know the sacrifice, but I think the sport has grown. I think it's a shame. I would have loved to seen the sport go more mainstream. That's always been like something that I envision and hoped for the sport. I think, Arnold was somebody that took the sport from, probably some beaches that you posed on and some little high school auditoriums, and definitely brought more awareness to the industry. Got, from getting in movies and the evolution of people admiring the physique, the superhuman look. And obviously the sport is a freak show. Bodybuilding in general is kind of the freak show. That's what people want to see. Like, you always talk about the fat lady at the circus. Like, that's why everybody went to go see the freak. They didn't want to go see just the normal person. They want to see the freaks. And that's really what bodybuilding does. It encourages a lot of the freak shows. Yes, physique is available, and classic and stuff like that. And there are incredible physiques. Those guys look like cartoons. There's such incredible super small waist, wide shoulders, just gnarly physiques. But at the same time, like, bodybuilding, everybody trains to be a bodybuilder. That's just fact. And I think the sport in general is the freak show. And I think because of the attachment to performance enhancing drugs, it's hindered the sport's ability to really get mainstream. Because everybody's going to jump to, well, it's all steroids that happens, and it's a shame. But yes, is that a component of it? But at the same time, like, you can take average Joe walking down the street, give him all the steroids in the world, and he's never going to look like an Olympia competitor. That's just fact. So the genetics part, the hard work, the discipline, the ability to train hard and lift heavy weight and do the same shit every single day for years and years and years, that's what makes bodybuilding what it is. And the amazing thing is, you can take what you learn in bodybuilding and apply it to life and have a lot of success in it. Like I took a lot of what I had learned in bodybuilding, the disciplines, and translated that into business and had a lot of success in that because I was able to take the discipline, take the ability, if you don't win a show and you busted your ass, it's the same thing as like, man, I'm going to try this new marketing thing with my business. Or I'm going to try this new business, just start whatever it is. And if it doesn't work, like you don't just get totally derailed and stop. In bodybuilding, you get your ass back up, you get back in the gym, you work harder, and you say, I'm going to improve what I did. Same thing applies in life. Like there's that natural supernatural correlation where if it doesn't work out, I'm going to think of another way and I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to bust my ass till I succeed in it.
Do you feel like bodybuilding, men's bodybuilding, do you feel like there in the last 10 or less years, there's almost been a target on its back from the other divisions of like, from thinking, there's a lot more of us than there are of you, but you mentioned, everybody's coming to see the freak show, right? Like, so it's like they maybe, and I'm not, saying that this is everyone or maybe even anyone. I'm, merely asking the question more than, insinuating something, but there's a sense of like, they're getting the big prizes, they're getting the big, fame, they're getting the big following, they're getting all these things when we're the bulk of people who are on stage. It's 9 divisions versus 1, yet why are they getting all the attention? Do you ever feel like there's any of that, or do you feel like there could be that in the future? Some of that maybe.
There is. I know it always is question, but at the same time, like, okay, if you had a day for each division, let's just call it at the Olympia, they did one day where it's physique, one day classic, one day bodybuilding. As that progressed, I guarantee the crowd gets bigger and bigger at each division. Like physique, it'd be half filled. Classic, it'd probably be close to filled, and it would be sold out at the bodybuilding. Like that's just the at least like I know the caliber of guys when I competed, it was that way. Like I mean, now and not discrediting the guys. I mean, there's still some amazing competitors, but I don't think the field's as deep as they were, through the years. Because I think when you start, and I had this conversation, a recent podcast I did, it was just like if you dilute the pro ranks with too many pro cards, which there's been a lot more pro cards given out in the last 10 years, um, the quality of the competitor goes down. It's just like printing too much US currency. The more currency you print, the less valuable it's worth. So to me, you water down the athlete a little bit. It doesn't, I mean, yes, the top 5 to 10 guys are really good, but after that, it kind of falls off where, there was 20, 30, 40 guys that could jump in some shows at any time and it would be a top 5 Olympia type show, so definitely I feel like the quality competitors have decreased a little bit just because, if somebody places second and gets a pro card, they still haven't, to me, like earned the right to get there. Like to me, it's like you got to win and win an overall to go into that next level, and it's definitely watered it down a little bit.
It is interesting, just the different, and that goes back to the business tactics and strategies, right? Of a federation. Like, well, what are we looking for? How do we get there? Is it because bodybuilding, it seems like with talking to so many bodybuilders and promoters and everyone in the community, it seems like it is a competitor sport. It's much less I'm a fan, but I don't compete kind of thing. Like it's not like that. It's not like any other sports where it's like you're not going to have people that are non-fitness enthusiasts at a bodybuilding show, like, or non-bodybuilders mostly at a bodybuilding show or their family. So it's like, do we increase the competitors to make this bigger and more money and all the things that go with that? Or, how do we do it? And I think that potentially, there isn't a different route to go about it, or we'll see what does happen in the next 5, 10, and so on years as the era this era, we're kind of almost in the middle of the 2020 to 2030 era, and you're seeing different competitors and things. But as that one kind of fades away, I will be very interested to see what that next generation will look like with, if this is still the mold of how things are going. And with that being said, what do you think, going on that, what do you think will be the future of bodybuilding in 10 or so years?
It's definitely expanded more worldwide. I could say that. I think the growth of it, from like the Middle East, like due to Hadi and Big Ramy, who have, come from the Middle East, there's definitely been a huge surge of fans and popularity in that area. You look at like Oxygen Gyms and the Camel Crew and all those guys, like, they've created this huge following for bodybuilding. So I could say that the sport has definitely grown. And in the United States, as with most things, we're spoiled. Like, a pro bodybuilder walks into a gym in the United States, they're like, oh, that guy's a pro bodybuilder, whatever. You go overseas, you go to Europe, you go to Australia, I've been all over the world. So a pro bodybuilder walks in the gym, they're like, oh my God, like that's a celebrity. Like there's a different level of appreciation for an athlete overseas in comparison to the States. We're a little bit spoiled, a little bit, kind of the mystique was kind of worn off in a way, in comparison to going overseas and meeting some fans or people going into a gym. They just don't have as many pros around, that's just fact. But the sport has definitely grown, and I would hope that it continues to grow. I'd hope that in the next, 5 to 10 years, it just keeps on elevating and with the right leadership, the right, people putting out good stuff, good ambassadors for the sport, the athletes, it definitely can. But you make a good point. Like bodybuilding is not, you don't have, Joe and 5 of his friends that never work out, like sitting at a TV on Sunday, like waiting for, the live stream of, the Olympia, like maybe Olympia, but the average show, like, no, they're not. It's either family or people that are very active in the fitness industry. So it would be, how do you capture the other people out there would be the $1 billion question.
Right. That is true. Very, very true. And with things kind of going the way of live streams and social media and digital age, it's going to be interesting to see how much of that does start to or continue to play into bodybuilding as far as all that kind of stuff goes. But man, it was great getting to chat with you. You talked about ambassadors, and you're certainly one for the sport and one for health and fitness. So I appreciate you and you coming on here and sharing all this kind of great conversation with me tonight. I really enjoyed it. And once again, just thanks for coming on.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. It's absolutely been a pleasure, Daniel. And I look forward to doing it again. Anything you want to discuss, talk about? This was just a great conversation. I mean, we did not have a script. We were like, hey, let's just kind of roll off the hook and see what happens. And man, I really enjoy what you're doing. You bring a lot of athletes, putting a lot of value, good information out there. And I think the world needs to get more good information out there and highlight some of the athletes and people that are in the sport and, what they stand for, what they're doing. And I just, I'm honored to be on your show, man. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And before we head, if you want to share any contact info, socials, websites, or anything like that, you can.
Yeah. If anyone want to get a hold of me, I'm just at Steve Kuclo, Kuclo. And then a lot of people reach out to me with like health, wellness stuff. I have my own wellness company, Upgraded Human Wellness. We do everything from functional medicine, holistic health, all the way to HRT and all that kind of stuff. So it is for people that are very knowledgeable and wanting to help you, we're the guys that can do that. So upgradedhuman.com is where you can reach us at. So, man, I appreciate that. Thank you, Daniel.
If you're tired of searching for a coach or trainer, somebody who knows what they're talking about and has experience, make sure you go check out the new Coach's Corner on weightroompodcast.com. You can find quality, qualified coaches to help you achieve your goals, whether that's in bodybuilding or just general fitness. Stop wasting time and start achieving your goals today. The link to the Coach's Corner is down in the description below.